Hey guys, in this video I'm going to illustrate the process of how to correctly set the crankshaft position sensor on the 2.3 liter turbo MZR engines found in both the Mazdaspeed 6 and Mazdaspeed 3 vehicles. My engine builder, Jordan, over at Overspeed Motorsports, he shipped the motor to me with the timing peg already installed in the engine, already clocked at a top dead center, which is the position that it needs to be in to be able to set this sensor in place. I'm going to remove the peg to show what that looks like. But if you're going to be replacing this sensor, then you're going to have a blind plug that looks like that. You'll have to remove that blind plug, insert this special service tool, part number 303-507. All right, so on the side of the engine over here, just behind the crankshaft position sensor, is where this peg, timing peg, is inserted right now. So let me go ahead and get it backed all the way out. Okay, so with the timing peg removed, you can see that there's actually, well, I'll even compare it to the blind plug that goes in it afterwards. The timing peg is quite a bit longer. It actually extends into the rotating assembly and is actually what's causing that limit of rotation. But we'll be putting this in again with the engine at top dead center. And you don't need to torque it, you just need to tighten it all the way until it's seated up against the face. Okay, and again, we don't want to over tighten this, just seat it to the block. With that peg installed, it prevents any further clockwise rotation of the engine from this position when it gets to top dead center. I'm actually going to demonstrate and show that. So you'll see that I can rotate the engine counterclockwise from this position, but when I rotate it clockwise, it's actually going to hit that peg and stop any further rotation. With it in this position, we can now set where this needs to be and tighten it down. You'll see that there's quite a bit of rotational play in this sensor, and even just a slight amount of radial play in and out. So up here in this position, there's a spot on the crankshaft pulley where these teeth are on the back side where it looks like it's missing teeth. From this position, we're going to count to the 20th tooth, counting counterclockwise. So starting with this tooth right here at 1, 2, 3, and so forth, we're going to count all the way over to the 20th tooth over here. The 20th tooth is right there. Jordan has already taken a Sharpie and highlighted that 20th tooth for me, but you can see right now with the crankshaft position sensor just loose, it's falling below that. We're going to be setting its position to where that little line on the sensor right there is pointed right down the center of that tooth. And we're also going to be setting an air gap of 40 thousandths of an inch. So we're going to be inserting a feeler gauge in there while we tighten up the sensor to correctly set its position. I'm going to be using a 40 thousandths feeler gauge. You could also use a 1 millimeter feeler gauge as well if you've got a metric set. All right, so we're going to insert that guy right there in between the two. And with the feeler gauge inserted between them, we can go ahead and rotate the sensor until that line is pointed right down the center of that tooth. Once we have it in that position right there, we can now go ahead and tighten these two 8 millimeter bolts. All right, the service manual states to torque these bolts to between 4.1 and 5.5 foot-pounds, which is what I'm going to be setting this to. All right, with it torqued in position, I'm just going to double check just to make sure it's still in line, and it is. We can go ahead and remove the feeler gauge. And one other very important thing to do here is to remove that timing peg. leaving that in and trying to crank the engine would be a bad day. So be sure to remove that timing peg and replace it with the blind plug when you're finished. All right, we'll go ahead and remove this guy. Make sure that surface is clean. And because you'll see that there is a gasket on this blind plug. All right, I have my torque wrench set to 15 foot-pounds. We can go ahead and torque this blind plug into place here. All right, that completes the process of installing the crankshaft position sensor. If you are replacing your engine or just replacing the sensor itself, hopefully this video proves to be a good resource for you. Thanks for watching.